Yes, sir.
We'll call to order the Planning Commission meeting for June 8th, 2022. And if everyone could please rise, Mr. Shapakis can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, clerk, if we can call to roll.
Greenberg.
Here.
Hicks is absent. Shapaka.
Here.
Siriano.
Here.
Tamarkin.
Here.
Wester.
Here.
Thank you. Next, we go to additions and corrections to the agenda. We have none. Go to approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Siriano,
Second.
second by Mr. Greenberg. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call to roll.
Siriano.
Yes.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Shapaka.
Yes.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Wester.
Abstain.
Motion passes. Next, we'll turn it over to Mr. Roth, our city attorney, to swear in the applicants. Mr. Roth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now at the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing will operate as follows. Administrative staff will make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant or their representative may then make a presentation or comment on the application. Public comment will then be open for 3 minutes allowed per speaker. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Speakers must complete a speaker slip and come to the podium and state their name. The applicant will then be given 10 minutes to comment. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. If there is more than one application pending for a particular address, the presentation on each application may be consolidated and presented as one. At this time, will persons wishing to present testimony this evening please rise and raise their right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. All right, we'll now do the public portion of the meeting, and we'll read in the first agenda item. We have SWP-0004-2022 to consider a subdivision without a plat application for property located at 3721 Stigler Road, parcel ID 025-004-297, current zoning SF3, Marilyn Ramirez, applicant. And now we'll turn it over to Mr. Blackford for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Loading things up here for the first presentation of the evening. All right, now it should be, there we go. On your maps here, we can see the location and zoning map. Stigler Road, this is zoned SF3, so that's very important when we're discussing lot combinations and lot splits, things of that nature, because they have to meet frontage and lot size. That's really the two main criteria that are evaluated in lot splits. And this request does meet the minimum requirements for lot size and lot frontage of the SF3 district. Sorry here. Some requests are so simple, it's actually kind of difficult to find enough things to talk about, so I'll just keep it short and to the point. They're just under 1 acre right now, creating one parcel into 2 parcels, just under half an acre each. The SF3 zoning requires 11,000 square feet, so in this case, we're talking about basically twice of what that minimum zoning size is for lot size that meets lot frontage. And like it says, lot splits requiring planning commission approval, less than 5 acres. Like we talked about beforehand, it's a little bit interesting to me that, combining properties doesn't require any city approval, but then when you want to split them, it does. And in this case, it's really a return to what was there previously. The image on the left hand of the screen is the existing property boundary, and you can see there, you can still see it on the screen, but you can see it in your staff reports here. Here is a line, this faint line here, right by the sort of creek area. That's the original lot location. So that tells us something. That tells us that at one point in time, this one lot was two lots. We don't know when it was changed, again, since we're not involved. But they want to go back to the original boundary. Again, that meets all code requirements. Staff, we don't have any objection to that because it's returning to what it was previously, and it meets all of the code requirements. We have talked a few times about some of these similar kind of requests about when we revise the zoning code, that these requests should be administrative. Staff certainly agrees with that. So I would anticipate, future code amendments making this an administrative decision. Again, that's when it meets code. So this request meets code. We recommend approval, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Blackford. Would the applicant like to speak?
I think he handled it.
He handled it. All right. And there's nobody from the public. I assume there's no communications.
Correct.
So we will close the public portion of the meeting and turn it over to the committee. Any questions or comments?
No questions for me.
Quick question for me is the picture on the screen right now is the blue. Is that a creek that goes through the property?
Yes, I believe so.
And none of this is flood plain or flood?
It's not floodplain, but this doesn't authorize construction. So next step would be is we sign some paperwork, we get that to the county records that. Then when they would come in, it's a single-family zoning, so I would assume we would see a couple of permits eventually for new construction. At that time, that gets looked at for building, engineering, and for planning, and some of those elements that you're talking about, like what kind of waterway that is, or if there's easements on the property, that'll get evaluated at the time of the building permit.
Okay. So nothing we need to worry about tonight.
Correct.
All right. No other comments? I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to consider subdivision without plat application SWP 0004-2022.
I have a motion by Mr. Greenberg,
Second, Suriano.
second by Suriano. Any discussion?
I'll be in favor for all the reasons staff outlined.
Thank you. Clerk, can we have a vote?
Greenberg,
Yes.
Siriano,
Yes.
Chapaca,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Wester.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Good luck with your property. Moving on to the next agenda item, we have DR-0009-2022 to consider a design review application for property located at 259 Granville Street, parcel ID 025-007431, current zoning CC, Mighty Lion Express Car Wash, Richard Reed Dietz, applicant. Turn it over to Mr. Greenberg, or not Mr. Greenberg, to Mr. Blackford.
I'd love
Sorry.
to make the presentation.
Comes out
I
faster.
bet you would. I'd gladly hand this over to you. So the last item on tonight's agenda, the Mighty Lion Car Wash, is another fairly straightforward request. It got more straightforward as we went through the review, and I'll explain why here momentarily. But on your screen, you see the location and the zoning. It's CC, which is community commercial. It's on the south side of Granville. It's just east of our old Gahanna area, which has, very different rules for development as far as materials and colors and uses. But again, this property is just to the east of that. It does have 3 different frontages, 2 of them on Lincoln Circle, 1 on Granville. That does affect a few things, but not as much as for this kind of updated request as some of our other development. It's really a fairly straightforward request. It's a design review application. There is new owners. They met with staff a couple of months ago. They're doing a little refresh. doing some updates to the site. There's a new roof, it's black in color. They're painting the brick that's out there white. They're also adding some pay stations, so it's automated, and there's some vacuums there as well. So when I originally met with the applicants, we talked about, if you're making some changes, changing parking and that, you might need some variances for setbacks and for parking specifically. They did actually file a variance application. We were able to do some research on the property, and we discovered that in 1990, there was a variance request specifically for setbacks and for parking. The amount of parking it was approved for is the exact same amount of parking that they have on this site plan. And the setbacks were for a smaller, less of a distance than what, I know they're not changing the building, but the setbacks also apply to those pay stations. And those pay stations are outside of the setback that was previously granted. So it turns out they don't need any variances. I did attempt to contact the applicant last week to let them know, and I never heard anything back, so I don't think they're here tonight. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions if they're not here. Here is the site plan. And what they have here in green and all this is this is already existing. There's really no proposed changes. Right here, this is where the pay stations are going. Again, that's within the setback that was previously approved. They're also adding the vacuum stations right here in this parking area. There's employee parking on the back of the building and the inside where those garage bays are. Those bays will not be used for any type of servicing or anything like that. It's strictly for the employees to park. So really, it's very similar to the existing setup, and that I know there was a question when we just talked about this briefly beforehand about any building permits. I was able to do a little bit of research. There is an alteration permit submitted to the city that's being reviewed by the building department. It doesn't tell me what it is, and I don't think I would understand it anyways. But there are some internal improvements in the car wash area that are being proposed. And that's separate from Planning Commission, but just to give you an idea, there are some additional improvements. So again, it's really fairly limited in scope. They're changing the color of the building. This image on top, I know this is part of your package here, but just show this. This is the north elevation, so this would be looking from Granville. This is what you would see. Again, everything is staying the same. They are painting the doors here black. I'm not sure what the existing color is, but I can find out if we're interested. This is the east elevation, so this is what you would see on Lincoln Circle. Again, right here you see these vacuums being added. These vacuums seem to be similar in configuration as the recently approved and open car wash, the Moo-Moos. Has some very similar types of improvements there. And then this would be the south side of the building, which would again face Lincoln Circle. Again, they're painting the doors, new roof, and the building is being painted white. They provided an image here of the pay stations. Obviously, this isn't on this property. I think it's here just to give us a little bit of an idea of just what those pay stations look like. Staff recommendation, we would recommend approval. The main change is the appearance to the building. It's going to be white instead of the sort of natural brick color. We have seen a number of those approved recently. I think we're going to see some other requests. That's a trending color combination in that, and we've approved that. So we would recommend approval. That's consistent. The code rewrite, one of the elements that we had some public outreach on was color schemes and that nature, and the sort of the neutral and the white were going to be preferred colors. I think that'll be a recommendation of the new code. So again, it's consistent with the future code here. There was a conditional use previously granted for the car wash. We talked about that when Moo-Moos was looking at this site and that. So, the zoning does allow for the continuation of this use. It is a non-conforming use because there were some code changes where no longer you couldn't do a new one in this zoning. But again, they have a conditional use. It meets all the non-conforming status. And again, the changes are minor in nature and consistent with past approvals. So again, we would recommend approval. I apologize that the applicant isn't here. I'll do my best. I did have a conversation with them a couple months ago, so I might be able to answer your question, but probably not. Do my best. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Pam, have we heard from the applicant?
We have not, and I sent them, and both parties that are on the application, an email on the 1st, June 1st, that they had on the agenda.
Okay. So I assume the applicant's not here, so no communications from the public?
No.
We'll close the public portion of the meeting and turn it over to committee to ask Mr. Blackford questions.
I have one question. Do we know the hours of operation?
No, we don't. I do not.
I'm sorry, Tom.
No, I'm finished.
Mr. Blackford, do you happen to know, as this is a design review, if there's any latitude with the, not the branding, but the coloration of the pay stations? These are shown as blue in this image, which I know this isn't the intent, but I was just curious. Color scheme on the building is pretty neutral. I think that should extend to the pay stations as well, if possible.
I would say that the design review can be conditioned, like most of our other applications. So I would say if that is something that, my opinion is, if Planning Commission wanted to not recommend, but actually make the approval, have that be a neutral color or list out 3 or 4 colors, that would be part of the record. That would get communicated with them, and we would make sure that that gets constructed in that way.
Could we condition without having, without selecting a color, I don't know, is it appropriate to condition back to staff for administrative approval?
I wouldn't like to see you do something that vague,
Okay.
but I think if you say colors consistent with the exterior color scheme or something like that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. All right, seeing no other comments, does the commission agree that we should condition this? Seeing some nods here.
Yeah, I guess that's the point.
I agree with it also. So do I have a motion with condition?
Mr. Chair, I move for approval for design review 0009-2022 with the addition that the color of the vacuum stations to be consistent or complementary with the exterior colors of the building.
And if I can add to that, I think it's the vacuum stations and the pay stations.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Wester.
Second, Mr. Specker.
Got a second by Mr. Shabaka. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, can we call the roll?
Wester,
Yes.
Chappaka,
Yes.
Siriano,
Yes.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Motion passes. I would like to add one thing to it. I am typically not in favor of an applicant not showing up, and even though there was no commentary or significant commentary for this applicant, I would like to be on the record as saying in the future, I will vote no if there's any questions for the applicant and they are not present. All right. Moving on, we have no other applications. So we go to unfinished business. We have none. New business. We have none. Official reports. City Attorney.
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Chair.
We have none. Director of Planning.
Thank you. Just next meeting looks to be a little bit more robust. Like I said, we have 40 applications in review right now, and I'm expecting a few of those to be ready for the next meeting. So it might be a little bit more intrigue and complexity with our next meeting, and I think probably summer is going to just generally be a busy time for Planning Commission, it looks like, the way some of these applications are kind of timing out. So just FYI as we move forward through the summertime. Thank you.
Thank you, and now we will go to our city council liaison.
Thank you. Just two things to briefly bring up. One, I'll say that planning, we will be having a discussion here later this month with city council, giving them an update on our rental registration program. We're working on that right now, and one thing that might be of interest, the planning commission from a recent city council earlier this week was council looks like they changed their rules now to have, we being planning commission used to have comments at the start of the meeting for items not on the agenda. City council has that, and they're now taking them in person and virtual. So times they are changing. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our CIC liaison is not here tonight. Madam Mayor, got 2 events coming up tomorrow and the
Yes.
Country Club,
Country
the
Club.
Big Walnut Country Club. There's something. I got a notification today. An invite.
Sure.
June
Let me
29th.
start with tomorrow night.
Yes.
So tomorrow evening, right here in council chambers, our development department and myself will be here to offer a presentation of the Creekside redevelopment strategy. This would be similar to the Economic Development Forum that was held just a few weeks ago. That particular presentation was really geared toward the business and development community. We did have Lieutenant Governor Houston there who talked about the impacts of Intel, how we are preparing as a community for growth. This presentation tomorrow evening will be more resident focused and really will have a more detailed discussion on the Creekside redevelopment strategy, what we've been doing for the last 10 months, and really provide an opportunity to start the conversation with our residents around how we want to see the Creekside district be redeveloped, to make sure that we create that roadmap that will dictate, or at least give us the ability to dictate a little bit more what happens in that area so that we get the types of businesses that we want and see that area grow as the community wants to see it grow. The other event is a meeting that we're having. So the City of Gahanna, our Department of Parks and Recreation, in conjunction with the Arts Council and the Historical Society, Visit Gahanna, and Make Gahanna Yours, several other organizations within the city, are working on it's be an event for the unveiling of a dedication marker to commemorate the location of the Big Walnut Country Club. That marker itself, getting that marker actually to be made, was led by Kevin Dangle and Tom Gregory, and support, as well as a Big Walnut Country Club Vision Committee that they had formed. So there will be an unveiling ceremony that'll be coming later in the fall. So we have a meeting on June 29th to talk about what that ceremony will look like, and then what comes after that as we work toward identifying something to really do a special recognition of that important piece of our city's history. That is a piece of our history, belongs to 36,000 people, 35,726 to be exact based on the last census count. I'll round it up to 36,000. But that piece of history, having one of the first black country clubs in the country located right here in Gahanna, is significant for us. So how we truly memorialize and honor that piece of our history is going to be important for everybody. So that meeting on June 29th is to talk a little bit more about that.
Excellent. Any comments from the chair? I got 2 comments. First, congratulations to the city on the John Houston event. Mr. Hicks and I attended. Very well done. Very nice coup to bring him in to Gahanna to speak. He was very good. Lots of great comments about Intel. Very few notes. Just kind of spoke from the heart, from the head. And it was very nice and very well attended by the community. Secondly, I think question for Mr. Blackford. We've had 2 votes that we took on High Bank Distillery. We approved the signage. We approved the patio. Was anything needed for parking? Parking is an absolute disaster there.
Nope, that's a shopping center. So parking's done by shopping center. That's codes don't fix, can't fix, and can't contemplate. It's zoning codes take a one-size-fits-all approach to parking. So when there's a successful business, that's not a code issue. That's just it's a successful business thus far.
And there's enough parking by code,
Yeah.
there's enough parking for what's in the plaza.
Based off of zoning code, yes, because it's a shopping center. So that was all talked about several times with the applicant and all that. Again, if it's successful, minimum parking standards aren't going to be enough for successful businesses.
Yeah, it's a mess. If you've been there at night, they're parking on the curbs, they're parking on the outer bank where there's no parking, and they did have valet parking, knowing it, but it's going to impact their business. When I had Rotelli's, my parking lot was a mess, and it impacted my business. So it's going to be a battle there. And any comments from the committee?
Yeah, well, Mr. Chair, I would like to add my vote in there when the applicant's not here. I would hate to have the hammer, but I like when somebody's here to represent them. I take time out to be here for that, so most likely I will lean towards not being in favor of that applicant.
Gentlemen?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, no additional comments.
Okay. And then, with that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Meeting's adjourned.